Are you ready for love? Hi, I'm Marcus Holmes, the facilitator of the Love and Stuff community, and we're ready for you to join us on the next episode of The Dating Game. Forget all of the social distancing. Let's get up close and personal online. And who knows, you might make a heart connection that will lead you to a private Zoom room date. Inbox me now at Marcus R. Holmes or at Love and Stuff for your opportunity to connect closer while we are so far apart. Stay safe and be well.
Our whole world. A parent, partner, sibling, or friend who we still cannot accept is no longer here. And for many months, we have grieved by ourselves. Tonight, we grieve and begin healing together. Though we may be physically separated, we, the American people, are united in spirit. And my abiding hope, my abiding prayer, is that we emerge from this ordeal with a new wisdom, to cherish simple moments, to imagine new possibilities, and to open our hearts just a little bit more to one another.
And good evening and welcome to Love and Stuff. Of course, that sounded very vice presidential, didn't it? From Kamala Harris, our soon to be inaugurated, sworn in vice president. We are so excited, and we have invited a few guests to join us to share in that excitement. So wherever you are around the globe or world or your world, if it's afternoon, evening, or morning, drop in the comments whether you are on Facebook, YouTube events, Twitch TV, or LinkedIn Live. Drop in the comments where you are and share with us your excitement around the inauguration, the swearing in of a new president, thank God, and a vice president who is the first female that will raise to that office and the first woman of color of African American and Asian descent. And we are peacock proud of having Kamala Harris. And I know you know plenty of information about Kamala Harris, but we will share a little bit in a minute. But I have one of our wonderful guests, one of my faves, I call her, who has joined us. And of course, I have not been part of any fraternal order. I'm just the fraternal order of Jesus. That's what I am. I'm Alpha and Omega. But many people are aligned with various fraternities and sororities. And as, of course, you know, our Vice President Elect is an AKA woman. And so I thought I would ask a few AKA women, not, you know, nothing against all of the other many sororities. Of course, my sweetest sweetie girl is a part of another sorority, so she's going to be saying, Uncle, what? But we all can share in this pride, but they must be proud in their pearls and in their AKA regalia for their sister. She is sister to all of us, right? She's a part of the African American diaspora, but I wanted especially to talk to some of them. And so the director of senior services for the Wayne County here in Michigan, who is also noted for her work with AARP around our country. And I wanted to just bring her forward as a voice tonight of other voices that will join us. But I'm bringing to our platform Miss Lisa Whitmore Davis. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am so excited and so happy to join you this evening on Love and Stuff.
That's right. I'm so happy to have you. And I see you have all your AKA colors. Now I want to see a little bit more of that shirt. Can you, there you go. Show us, look at that. Now, J15 means what? Help those non-fraternal order folks out a little bit.
Yes, on January 15th in 1908, 16 young women who were one generation removed from slavery at Howard University founded Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We have over 300,000 members across the United States and across the world. We have chapters in Dubai, in London, in Canada, in the Caribbean islands, you name it. We're sorors, aka women, are everywhere. And as you mentioned, our beloved sister soror Kamala Harris pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha at Howard University. And so it's a sorority all across the country and at HBCUs, as well as predominantly white institutions like your Michigan State or University of Michigan. So we are just tickled.
I can only imagine. And for you to, what you said, at Howard, one generation removed from slavery, and now the first African-American vice president, woman vice president,
Yes.
It hails from that very school where it was started.
Right.
What kind of excitement is there among your sorority sisters and members?
Oh my God. Of course, we're just proud of her because she makes our founders, she's their wildest dreams. She has to be. 113 years of our sorority, and to be the first Black women's sorority in the, in the country. And then now to again be the first. We were the first in space. I mean, Mae Jemison, she's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, but to be the first female vice president, I mean, she's shattering a glass ceiling that not only shards of glass are coming down, but pearls are floating down with it. I mean, but some of the things that we've done, to answer your question, just like on Founders Day on January 15th, we had a special service on the Zoom, YouTube, where anyone could join us, but sorors came together from all across the country, all across the world to share Founders Day with Madam Vice President Elect. And she was just so wonderful and so warmth. Her warmth and kindness just jumped off the screen, and her connection to her line sisters, it's so deep. And it was so warm. It just touched your heart, and it brought me. I mean, I had a couple pearl tears because it was just so beautiful to see.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about that connection to line sisters. Because you would have line sisters. Everybody, I guess, has a set of line sisters. And so, were you able to get on with some of your line sisters and just relive moments, or how does that go?
Well, I know several of my line sisters, and hopefully folks have seen my plug on Facebook to join this conversation. We
Thank
all
you.
were watching because we're all being socially distanced, of course, but you could see sorors making their comments on social media. So social media has truly been a connection for us to be able to be together because we, as you probably know with your niece, we in sorority, we love to be together and see our line sisters. But you know, it was so touching with her line sisters. They all were on the call. They all talked about throughout her career how they have stepped up and stepped forward to either raise money, or as she said, they anchor me. When I go in cities where I think I don't know anyone, or I've gone to a political event, I look through the room. If I don't see one of my line sisters, I see a sister in pink and green, or I see one of my sorority sisters, and how it made her feel connected and that she wasn't alone. Because that's the one thing, you do have thousands and thousands of sisters. Of course, your immediate close relationship is with your line sisters, but you can walk in any room, and if you run into an AK, you know you have a sisterly conversation at bare bones. You know that you have that, and a sister who's going to help you. But I want to just jump to my fraternal sisters, the sisters of Delta Sigma Theta, Sigma Gamma Rho, Zeta Phi Beta, the Divine Nine. They all came through and supported this sister. We didn't let the colors or the sounds or the hand signals get in the way of this serious, in AKA we say a very serious matter. To see our sisters and brothers from across the Divine Nine, how they came out and raised money, they phone banked, they text banked, they walked, they marched, they knocked, whatever, to help move this forward. And even though we have our, because I tease, your niece Autumn is one of my favorite Deltas, and we tease each other in light and in jest. But the seriousness of the sisterhood and the pushing forward this agenda of how we could see our sister get there, but we all needed to work together. And it was just beautiful to see. It was beautiful to see. It really was.
Awesome. Now, I will imagine AKA has certain principles or values that you're supposed to embody as a sister. Which of them do you think that Kamala Harris embodies the most?
Supreme in service to all mankind. That is one of our founding tenets, to be supreme in service to all mankind. And that means people, like as she says, the people, I'm going to represent people who voted for me, but also people who didn't vote for me. And to me, that embodies supreme in service to all mankind. And she does that. And with a smile, that's another one of our sayings. And you always see her infectious laughter. You see her smile, her warmth. It's genuine. I think that's why people really connect with her, because she's relatable. She can run with the kings and the queens, and she can run with us sisters and brothers here in the D, But she definitely embodies supreme in service, and definitely and with a smile.
Yeah, I want to come back to that because I think you mentioned something for the people that didn't vote. It's like almost half of the country voted for the other side.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what are you thinking? Are there concerns ahead for the vice president being a woman in a country that might still have a little sexism, which we hasn't made the headlines as much as the racism that's happening, but sexism is still real. But I wanted to go because I see Dr. Alante Whitmore is in the room. And what do you think what does this mean to to you for Alante to see someone break that ceiling? What does that mean to you?
To me, it means that young women like my daughter Alante and young women younger than her, even when they run up against, sexism, racism, genderism, however you want to, whatever that ism, but those isms and especially the sexism and the racism, they can
Mm-hmm.
see how with grace and with strength, because I love it about how she is. She's graceful, she's
Mm-hmm.
poised, but
Mm-hmm.
she also lets a person know I'm speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to respect me, even if I have to tactfully command it from you.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, she shows that that you can do it, and there's nothing wrong with speaking up and using your voice to command the respect that you should receive. But
Mm-hmm.
like she did in the debates, how he was just being so disrespectful and talking over her, and she just looked at him and said, I'm speaking. And did you
Mm-hmm.
notice how he even had to back up?
Yeah.
And I think that's just such an example that young women need to see, and also too that truly the sky is the limit,
Mm-hmm.
because she's broken this glass ceiling. That means there's all this space that can continue to climb and continue to attain high goals. So I think it's great. It's just so
Yeah.
awesome.
Now, is Dr. Alante also an AKA?
Yes, she is. And do you know what? She pinned me. I wanted to be an AKA when I was at Michigan State, but life did not have it that I was able to participate in the undergraduate experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so my daughter, when she went away to North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, North Carolina, she became an AKA in 2009, and she
Mm-hmm.
came home and pinned me into Alpha Kappa Alpha in 2013. So I raised and birthed the woman who pinned me into the sorority. And so I thank the Lord for that blessing. I really do.
Wow. And so I think, I'm sure the Divine Nine are all happy, but I think the stock of AKA just went up. I think girls everywhere, if they're entering into college, are going to be thinking, I want to be in the sorority of the first female vice president. Is there
Yes.
any campaign afoot to maximize on that opportunity?
Well, none that I know of, but the beauty of Alpha Kappa Alpha in the undergraduate experience, young ladies can express their interest. And the graduate experience is not the same. You're invited for membership, but I can imagine that young women all across the United States who are in high school, they can become AKA teens. That's what we call them with my chapter.
Okay.
Or Ivy Lets. Some chapters call them that, but they're the high school organization that we have where we mentor and expose young women to leadership skills, abilities, studying, different things to help them on their high school journey. And of course, we hope that they continue once they get in undergraduate, that they, of course, get those grades and keep those grades up and apply for membership to Alpha Kappa Alpha in the undergraduate experience. Because from what I've seen with my daughter now, the HBCU experience is, from what I've seen with Alante, they had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they don't have a lot of fun like at a Michigan State, because I do remember going on Kedzie Hall, watching the Ivy Step and seeing the various activities, but something about that HBCU experience that you just can't deny or overlook. And not only does our Madam Vice President Elect have the AKA experience, she also has the HBCU educational experience, and I think she's going to give it additional credibility. I mean, I already am a big believer because I'm an Aggie mama, and like North Carolina A&T, for example, is the largest producer of Black engineers in the country. Our new EPA director, if he be confirmed, he's from A&T. So I think a lot of people think that HBCU education is inferior or not as equal to what you would get at a Michigan State or whatever, but they're equal and somewhat a little bit that cultural experience that they get that I didn't receive at Michigan State. You can't put a price or a quantify around it.
Wonderful. We're talking with Lisa Whitmore Davis, who, as you can see, is a proud AKA, and her daughter, proud AKAs. And we're celebrating on the eve of an historic inauguration where, as Vice President, Kamala Harris will be sworn in as, of course, the first female and first African American and Asian American woman to hold that highest ranking office, high ranking office in our world.
Yeah.
What do you hope, if anything, I'm sure you do, what do you hope that this brings? Because, I think, we used to call the president of the United States the leader of the free world. And in this previous administration or ending administration, outgoing administration, I think we kind of lost some of that credence, some of that credibility, some of that brand presence, if you will, of the president being the leader of the free world. What do you think or hope will be restored in this new administration, especially with Kamala Harris as vice president?
Wow, that's a great question, Marcus. I think a couple things. The United States return to civility.
Mm-hmm.
It's respect by other national and world leaders that now we're not confined to a tweet or policy being made by a tweet or off the cuff conversation, where now the diplomacy, a return to real diplomacy, not via social media, will return.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important because, like you said, the president of the United States is usually seen as the leader of the free world. And the last 4 years, that view of us has it's crumbled. There's just no other way to put it. It's crumbled.
Yeah, Craig Taylor is saying U.S. is the laughing stock of the world right now on Facebook. And so I didn't want to say it as pointed as I know Craig Turner could, but I kind of, was trying to say that same thing a little gingerly. But I think that there is something, of course, I think there is something to be said about a career politician. I know sometimes a career politician gets a bad name because they're a career politician. What have you done? What changes have you made? What have you been able to effectuate? But there is also something to be said about the experience with diplomacy and working across aisles and building relationships, and
exactly
something to be said about that. And so I'm hopeful that that part of what we've been missing in this experience these last 4 years will be restored. And even in some of the choices that they're making for cabinet members and other positions, they're bringing people who have that experience. How important do you think that is in governance? You being a civil servant, a public servant in Wayne County, how important is that experience? You bring a wealth of experience. I'm sure the county executive was smart in making the decision and having you come and be the director because you have a wealth of experience with seniors and the AARP work. And so to put someone in that spot, maybe who has no experience with seniors, maybe they could bring some fresh ideas, but I think it's just smart to bring to governance someone who's had some experience doing the work. How important do you think that is?
I think it's really important. When you look at the potential cabinet that they have assembled, they're men and women who are diverse in cultural experience, in race, in gender, but also they have the background and, as you said, the experience to really bring things forward. I've already pointed on the EPA director. He was the environmental director in North Carolina, getting an outstanding education at A&T. For example, I don't know her name, but she's going to be the Secretary of the Interior. She's the first Indian American, Native American, Native Indian to be at a cabinet level. And the Secretary of the Interior, they deal with our reservations across the United States and with our indigenous people. She will have a connection and also a credibility that someone who may be knowledgeable educationally, but she will also have that added cultural experience and empathy and understanding. And she is also, I think, a sitting congressperson. So she brings that, governmental experience on a national level too. But that cultural piece there with her being the Secretary of the Interior, I think is just a great pick. There's also a person today I read about, a transgender doctor who will be the assistant director of health. So that brings in another level of experiences and cultural, because America is a diverse space. And everybody, no offense to my white brothers, but everybody can't be a white man, to serve everyone who looks different. Like there's a T-shirt in AKA, my vice president is my sister and looks like me. Well, now people in different walks of life will be able to say, this person, he or she has walked the experience that I have in my life, or he or she looks like me. And I think they've just done a wonderful job. And I think that's going to help us provide with stronger, better, more the public policy that I hopefully will see coming out of the Biden-Harris administration is going to be more connected to the general regular person, not the wealthy 1%. It's going to embody the experiences of what we as regular people, I'm a little girl from Benton Harbor, that I experienced living in Benton Harbor or living as an adult here in Detroit.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I'm going to go to the comments really quickly before I bring on along with us our next guest who is joining us. Kim Goddess, my hero Jones says, return to at least the appearance of decorum. Thank you for that. Craig Turner, I know your last name isn't Taylor. It came out too quick. I was thinking Filter and Turner. That's what Taylor came from. But that's what I was thinking. So I'm going to have join us Lisa Valencia, who we call Mama V. Etner here. Both of you are AKA.
Hey, Sora.
And I don't know if you all have met, but Valencia, Lisa is the niece, I believe, of former President Aldrich of the Wolverine State.
Wow.
Yes.
And Lisa, Valencia's grandfather was the president of Wolverine State, Roy Allen. So I got two.
I remember him. Yes.
I got the first families of the Wolverine State on here. Not like planned that way, but it worked out. That was good.
It did.
It did. Great to meet you, Sora.
Listen, Reverend Aldrich was wonderful. Wonderful.
He was. They don't make men like him anymore.
They don't make them like
and you're
like
them like your uncle.
Anymore. They don't make them like that.
They don't.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all.
And Dr. Allen is the same.
Yes, Dr. Allen was a magnificent preacher.
Yes.
Yes.
And Dr. Haney the same. I had to throw that in there. But okay.
Don't throw Dr. Haney in there. We're good.
Yes. I used to come to Dexter and Bessie McLean and all those folks. I'm like, when I was a little girl, they were the people that we looked up to,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now you all are the people that younger women will look up to now. And so how does that feel? Because you're kind of, you could be contemporaries as it relates to age to our vice president. You grew up in the same kind of era. Yeah. What are the things that you would hope that little girls, I kind of asked Lisa this a little bit, but younger girls will see in you and see in the AKA movement and Divine Nine, so that I'm not cutting anybody out. And again, I'm just Alpha and Omega. I'm Jesus. But
all right.
That's fine. We need
that. All of that. What do you hope that little girls are seeing? Because it's a lot. It was a lot for me, and I wasn't a little boy when Barack Obama became president. It was a lot to wrap my head around about how I could go big in some areas of my life. I'm like, wow, I'm really thinking too small in some areas. And I'm hoping that little girls are seeing you all and saying, wow, I guess I could be something great and have the sisterhood of thousands, which is what I wanted for Autumn, because she didn't have natural sisters at the time. And so I wanted her to have big sisters like people like you. So
yeah.
Valencia, what do you see in this,
Listen, I think that it is kind of surreal still. I think we see it, but we don't really. I think the impact tomorrow. I know I expect a welling up, even though I'm not the big crier. I expect the welling up because
Mm-hmm.
to be able to look at her take the oath of office for the
Mm.
Vice President of the United States in a time when the Senate is 50-50 and all of this legislation is going to fall on her head.
You got it, sister.
It's just amazing to me that the little girl in me is ecstatic,
Yeah.
and so I pray that young women who are beginning their journey in adulthood will think about their steps, because there's a reason she can step into this plane, because she made some choices very early. And she didn't have, because she's in our era, she didn't have the dangers that these young people face with
Mm-hmm.
social media and how they present themselves, and being able to go back in their lives on social media and see some of the things that they didn't think anyone was ever going to see, that then become stumbling blocks for them.
Mm-hmm.
My prayer is that they look at uh, the intentional moves that she made, the ordering of each step. That, of course, I pray they put God first, but that ordering of their steps will let them see what can be long before they get there. So they take every step so that they can see that if this is what it took for her to get here, then it's going to take this, this, and this for me to get there.
Yeah.
And that's
I,
what I pray.
I was so excited, Mama V, to get Lisa on. She's one of my faves that I neglected to mention earlier. We're almost at 2,000 views of our Martin Luther King special.
Oh, wonderful.
Just yesterday.
Nice.
And one of the persons called me to give me some commentary and thank me for doing it. I said, no, it's a small thing that any of us could do to celebrate such a Herculean life.
Yeah.
But she was saying how she graduated high school in the early 70s. And she was saying when she went through school, she called it, I think, grammar school. I forgot what she called it, something that I was like, I didn't call it, but okay.
Yeah,
she said that they didn't teach about Black history. It was government, and government was devoid of all of this, all of the things of Black first and Black excellence and Black. She said she really had to read on it herself. And I'm wondering, I wanted to ask this question of the two of you: how important was your experience in the African American church and whatever other opportunities that have served you to understand? Because if you don't see it, you might not think you could be it. So you don't know to take those intentional steps, right? If you don't have something in your background, how important is that for our young people? Was it for you? And then for our young people to have something like the African American church or African American institutions that inform them about the meanness of the African experience, the excellence of us within, the divinity within. How important is that?
Lisa, you want to go? I can wait.
Thank you, Sora Valencia. The church was vital in my upbringing because I went to Catholic and Lutheran schools. So I went to school with with other non-African American children. I have some lifelong friends from my elementary school experience at St. Matthew's Lutheran School. Yeah. But the Black church, I was immersed in that through my Uncle Avery, my mom, the women that were leaders at Second Baptist Church in Benton Harbor. They were my high school counselors. They were my teachers. Ms. Edwina Loader, she was my English teacher. The reason I can write a good letter today is because of how she used to ride us in high school. And also the way I grew up looking up to how was I going to dress. My mother was a stylish woman, but all her friends who also were hardworking church ladies also brought that forward, and how to be graceful. And a lot of those women are, bless the Lord, they're still living, but they're golden swords of AKA, and one just became a pearl this past celebration when we brought in our pearl swords, who are women who have served over 60 years, continuous service at AKA. And those women, when I became an AK, they came to Detroit, and that was like a van load of 80-year-old ladies coming to Detroit because of that connection. So they saw me grow up in Second Baptist Church, and then to see me now be a member of a sorority that they all experienced and enjoyed as women growing up. So I think that's where the Black church, and even tying back in Alpha Kappa Alpha, the leadership of those women, they were the superintendent of the Sunday school and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, obviously the church, and all of that connection, being the PK, so to speak, even though it was my grandfather, I stayed in the house with him, so it's PK.
Yeah.
And those first ladies who were a part of my grandmother's circle, my family members, my aunt, my mom, who were educators, who constantly made sure we were exposed to things that we would not have necessarily been exposed to. I even include things like being a cotillion debutante, knowing that the cotillion club was raising up some, and we're still somewhat connected, and every single one of us has that same kind of memory from what it was that it meant to stand up, to learn how to waltz, to learn how to curtsy, to have your etiquette classes, to learn all of those things, even as teenagers. And then I went to Cass Technical High School, and I really can't say enough for a group that you all may never have heard of, but it was called Harp and Vocal Ensemble. Vocal Ensemble, there has been literally 3 people who have led harp and vocal in its some 70, maybe 60-year existence.
Wow.
And that was Velma Froud, Patricia Terry Ross, and now Lydia Cleaver. And that legacy of pull up, no matter where you are, of learn how to speak and to say thank you in a way that was not just thank you, but thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the privilege of it, that kind of shaping of us. And then knowing that at church, at home, in places, we were learning the things about ourselves. And then I have to give a shout out. I don't know how many of you may know her, to this diamond soarer whose name is Justine Lofton.
Yes, she's in my chapter. I love Soar Justine.
Who is part of she is one of my mother's very best friends. So she's part of the fabric of my life. And so when I look at those ladies and how they had expectations of us to walk a particular way and live a particular way, I love it because she's a big Facebooker. So
she might see this
at 95. But anyway, so she
sings beautifully.
Absolutely, always has. I'm sure Marcus remembers her from all that time. But anyway, and what I love about her is that when she sees us do something well on Facebook, she is never amazed because she knows she put in the work.
That's right.
Yeah.
She knows
and
put in the work.
I want to ask you, though, back to that person who gave us the commendations. And by the way, she thought you did an outstanding job as Mahalia Jackson.
Oh, wonderful.
I guess the breakout performance was Reese Taylor by Aria Moody.
It was.
Because most people hadn't heard Reese Taylor's story to that kind of degree. And so shout out to Aria for that. I don't even know if Aria's in a fraternity or sorority, but, shout out to her tonight. Tonight is about sororities and fraternities a little bit. But I want to ask, did you, since you were in that 70s, I would imagine early 80s, was there any African-American history in the schools then that you can recall?
There wasn't.
Well, I grew up on the west side of the state, and I have to say no. Until I got to public school at Benton Harbor High School, the last 2 years of my schooling, that's when I was exposed to it. But in parochial school, there wasn't. So my mother and father made sure that we knew it, and then I was exposed through church life, to the African American culture, of course.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you said you got AKA teens, so you kind of have a girls to pearls kind of.
Wait, guess what, Sor Valencia? I was a Del Sprite.
That's funny.
I was a Del Sprite and I was a Kappa Leaguer. I was one of the few girls who was in Kappa League, but my dad was a Kappa, and he didn't have a son, and he felt the girls should be able to participate. So in the early 80s, I was a member of Kappa League. And then in middle school, my first year of high school, I was a Del Sprite. But in Ben Harbor, we didn't have AK teams when I was then, but they do now.
Yep. They may have had them, but we weren't a part of it. My mother is an AK, so therefore I was a legacy. So
yes,
if we had ACA teams, I would have been there, I'm sure. So
exactly.
So I'm talking to Lisa Whitmore Davis and Valencia Etner, who are, as you can see, very proud AKAs and proud nonetheless of our future vice president. We are on the eve of a historic opportunity. And you can continue to drop in the comments. I see Jaden Watkins on YouTube is saying, wow, put in the work. I think that is something great that was instilled in both of you, and you're still putting in the work so that others can. I think it's just extraordinary, because it's important for people to be able to see in order to be. And so people are saying, Lisa Whitmore Davis, the future director of Wayne County Senior Services, is seeing you. The future pastor of Miles Chapel and future doctorate of ministry. Congratulations, Valencia, on pursuing that. That future woman in ministry is seeing you, and that will help to inform their being. So with Kamala Harris becoming vice president, what about any of your aspirations do you now feel, even though, again, you're her contemporaries and you've accomplished a lot, the glass ceiling is broken for you? Are there things now that you feel, are you standing up like, okay, now, you know what? I'm going to think bigger. I can do something else. What are you thinking now that she's broken that glass ceiling?
Well, one thing I think she has helped me in finding my voice is I just love when she said, I'm speaking. Mm-hmm. That did something for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She didn't have to yell or be nasty, but her strength in just those two words and the way she conveyed it. So I am speaking up more, and not saying I'm speaking, but letting people know, or putting, speaking up, being a better advocate, I could say, for myself. I'm always a better advocate for others than for myself. Mm-hmm. And just seeing that, and how I just love how smooth she is. I just love it. And strong. Her strength is beautifully strong. She's beautifully strong.
I love that, because I tend to agree with you that, I hope this lands right, but women are typically better advocates for others than they are for themselves. So
absolutely.
I love that, it's informing you to say, well, what about me? And what about my voice? I think that is wonderful to hear. What about you, Valencia?
I when you were talking, I could hear Maya Angelou saying, I don't have to scream and shout or talk real loud, but when you see me coming, it ought to make you proud. Mm. And that's from Phenomenal Woman. I heard that as you were speaking. I think that that's what this is doing for us, is that she doesn't have to scream, shout. She's got a laugh that is not what we were told. It's not demure and held back. It fills up a room, and yet she is the epitome of femininity and strength. And I think that that is something that our young women, and even those of us who feel like we gotta, your neck doesn't have to move to be strong.
Right.
And we can speak clearly and definitively and make sure that our voices are heard without having to fall into some cliche, some stereotypic way of presenting ourselves in order to get attention. The attention comes when you walk in the room, when you know who you are and whose you are. When you step into a space, they will know you are there. And for me, that's the most important thing that can come out of this for Black women, that our voice is now not something that is peripheral. It is not going to be something that is an afterthought. When the Vice President of the United States is a woman of color, when we walk in a room, it changes the perception of who we are. Now, our responsibility, our challenge is to be ready and to step up to the plate and to not be a disappointment. Because now, you know, there's some expectation for someone who walks in a room, looks like us, carries ourselves in a particular way. When we open our mouths, we need to be prepared for what it is that comes out. And I think that for me, that's maybe the greatest thing that she has showed me, that dreams are not gone, that dreams are not dead. I'm not dead. I'm not, you know, I may be getting older, but I'm not on the downside of life. There's always up. And if you are looking up and you keep your focus up and forward, there's nothing you can't accomplish. And age has nothing to do with it. I told everyone this morning on Be Encouraged, and that's not a plug, but
it's okay, you can plug it.
On Thriving Tuesday Moments of Encouragement, one of the things I said this morning was that Caleb did not get to the promised land till he was 85 years old. But he never lost sight of what it was that God promised him. He never lost sight of that dream. And we just can't let it die. We have to keep them alive. And they may change form, they may change shape, they may do all of that, but letting them go is not an option.
Wow. I got to go back and watch that. Now, what time does it come on? So
it came on about 10:55 this morning. So 12 o'clock almost 12 o'clock your time.
Yes.
Midday Encouragement, Thriving Tuesday Moments of Encouragement. It's on the Encourage Ministries page and on mine. So
yes. And what time every week?
10:45 typically. Central Standard.
Thank you so much.
11:45 Eastern. Yeah.
Okay. And so, Lisa, you are the director of senior services. You've done significant and stellar work in senior care, senior area with AARP.
Yeah.
Valencia, you're a pastor. You've done stellar work in the time of the hurricanes in Houston. What are you looking for as issues to be addressed in this administration that are important to your life space or to your work? What's important to you? What are you looking for to start to happen?
Oh, I have one already.
Yes.
The pandemic has brought forward the inequities, and also not only the inequities in our healthcare system, but also the large issue of food insecurity.
Yes.
Especially not only young people, but older adults. And
Absolutely.
Of course, because I'm the senior lady, I'm going to talk about how we hope that the new administration will give us more money to give to support our Meals on Wheels programs and our congregate meal sites, because all seniors are not homebound. There are seniors who are ambulatory and who need, and we want them to remain getting out. And so we hope that they will increase the funding around the Meals on Wheels program, the congregate meals, as well as the SNAP program, which is that's food stamps, because a lot of older adults, they live on a very, very small pension, a pension at all, or Social Security alone. And the shutdown of how, we have to live now, to me, put a high beam light on how, if you can't go outside because it might kill you, how you are really, really not only isolated, but also your food insecurity needs even go higher than they did when you were able to get out and maybe go visit a friend and have a meal with them, or get help from different other aspects. But that's my number one. Please, we're on a bare bones, and believe it or not, they were cutting. I mean, this last administration wanted to cut food stamps, and they did, but it wasn't as bad of a cut as it could have been if organizations, I don't work for them anymore, but AARP and the National Meals on Wheels of America advocated Congress to not cut as bad as they wanted to.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with you, and on the other side of that, I'm hoping that thing that we've swept under the rug for some at least 155 years, that something will now change about how we see what slavery was, what the treatment of America, of the indigenous people of this country, that we pick up that rug we've swept this under, because it's tripping us. It's tripping us. That's why we're dealing with what we're dealing with right now, because we chose not to deal with it. And and I don't say we because it's us, because I know we've been trying to deal with it as a people, but I'm saying as a collective. I am praying that because there is a Kamala Harris sitting in the second seat in the land, that the racial issues of our time, and I know people will say, well, you know, we had Barack Obama, but because Barack Obama was the president, he didn't have as much latitude as she will in voicing from that second seat.
That's true.
And so I think that we cannot, I think we have to really, really pray for some discussion about some the racial disparity, about the sins of the past, because the chickens have come home to roost. And so because they're home roosting now, we've got to find a way to, as I say often, to deconstruct this situation so that we can reconstruct it, because the deconstruction is necessary for us to know why we got there. Because if you don't know how and why you got there for real, then you never know how to not make those mistakes again, or at least to know that you intentionally did this, and for us to be able to point to the fact that it was intentionally done for this purpose, so we can undo it, so that then we can do things differently. So for me, it's it's all of the residuals of racial disparity, whether it be the food deserts in our communities, whether it be the incarceration issues. It doesn't matter if you do little tweaking if the core is messed up. So dealing with the incarceration situation, dealing with our young and their way, and the disparity of education in our cities and in our rural areas. There's all of these things that are very connected, and healthcare, of course, connected to what it means to deal with an ongoing problem with racism in America, and the non-mattering of people who the status quo does not feel is important for the progression of America, or the standing still of America. I pray we're past the chapter of trying to roll us back to another time, so that we can move forward now and see who we really are. Because what America looks like is not what America was. It's what America is and what America will be.
That's right.
And I said to Lisa earlier that I wanted to come back to this. And I'm going to try to interweave two parts of a question in it, me and these compound questions. I'm a human resources professional, and throughout my time and career, I've been fortunate, or maybe not fortunate, to see African-American women in leadership who were characterized as the Black angry woman, or characterized as aggressive, or characterized as mean. And it has caused some of them to pull back in ways that have not served well the business results of that organization, because they were thwarted in some way from really standing up and giving their voice. I attribute that to sexism, and I have struggled with that for many times with many leaders, because there are times I've been in a room where there were women of African-American descent in leadership who were basically dismissed, and their thoughts and their opinions and their experiences were not treated as equal in the boardroom. We're living in an environment where half of the country voted for a guy who maybe espoused, maybe fostered, maybe cultivated an environment that would not be conducive to divergent voices speaking up proudly and boldly in collaboration. What do you think about how we move forward in a world where maybe women haven't had that voice or space, and now half of the country is going to be reacting, half of a Senate is going to be reacting to a woman who has that kind of authority and power?
Lisa, you want to go? I can. Okay.
Go ahead.
Being in a vocation that is predominantly male, and predominantly respected. You are respected as male. You are tolerated as woman. Okay, across the board. I'm not vilifying anyone who is in churchdom, in the ecclesiastical community. No vilifying here.
And if I can just open your door a little bit, because I
Yeah.
know you're going down that path,
Yeah.
but your experience from what would you call it, cross ecumenical, I would probably think CME is a little better
Policy-wise.
than Baptists were traditionally, right?
Policy-wise, but not necessarily heart, because it's just like civil rights. You can change legislation, but you can't change a heart. So even though you may be a part of an organization that is receptive and is embracing of women in ministry, that doesn't mean the hearts of those you work with are there.
Got you. Okay.
And so therefore, while it may be very blatant in other denominations, how many people feel about it, and it's changing. And I have to admit that it's changing, mostly because, like in every situation, women have worked doubly hard. They've done more education than many of our male counterparts. We've worked hard at fostering a community of care in our congregations and in our work in ministry. And so and while there's no absolutes, because you've got you've got people on either side of the spectrum, but I will say that it is going to be interesting to see how those who are very I'm just going to be bold and just say what I'm thinking. Those who are evangelical, who cannot receive a woman in leadership, as far as their faith is concerned, are going to have to work really hard to deal with a woman in that place where she's where the buck stops, where the Senate is concerned. That's going to be problematic for many. It is why we know that many African American men and preachers in particular during the Hillary Clinton election could not vote for Hillary, could not do it, because they could not vote for a woman to be the president of the United States, because it meant that they had to give credence and respect to a woman being the leader of the free world. There was nothing that many of them could do to fathom that. They just couldn't get their heads wrapped around it. And one of the things that Mr. Trump said during the time of the pre-election was that, they better hope that Joe Biden lives, because otherwise you got Kamala. And that was supposed to help that group of people who do not want a woman in leadership to feel as if, although, we pray that Mr. Biden lives strong and long, at 78, there is, that shroud of, if he is not, then it means that she becomes. And I think that for some of us, that's exciting it's also a place of trepidation for some others, and not just men, but women who do not have a concept of being woman-led. And that is and I find in the church that my greatest struggle in leadership is with women. Wow. And not with the men. The men they accept who is, and yet a lot of the second guessing comes from the women who are part of the ministry. And so and that's pretty much, my colleagues, my female colleagues across the country, we all pretty much agree on that there's something about not feeling comfortable with the fact that someone who is, shares your struggles is your leader. And so I don't know what that is. But anyway, that's where I am on that.
Okay.
I just wanted to add That's a great response, Sora Valencia. In my experience, especially now, and even if I didn't work for County Executive Warren Evans, he has women who are in leadership at Wayne County. I mean, when I think about our chief, our executive cabinet, it's a lot of Black women who we as department directors we report to. So I'm saying
Wonderful.
Warren Evans, as our CEO of Wayne County, he obviously already sees the value in the leadership value and the leadership capacity of especially Black women and women also. When I think about the department leaders at Wayne County, I've only been there 14 months, so I still say I'm a toddler. I'm learning my way around. I still put on my shoes, the wrong shoe on the wrong foot. But most of the women leaders, some of the biggest departments, are led by Black women. Our COO of the county is a Black woman. So that says something to his leadership, but also as a leader and people who are in government, because he's over Wayne County is the largest county in the state, the 18th largest county in the country. That he already, when he came into his administration in 2015, and I didn't work that in, he had women leading and helping develop and take the county through a very difficult time. Prior to my tenure, Wayne County was going to go into bankruptcy, like the city, but they worked together, did the hard work. As one of your participants said, put in the work, but it was led by women, Black women, and white women, but more women than men. So I think it depends on the leader. And when you look at Joe Biden, I don't know him personally, but he obviously is comfortable with himself. Yeah. And he doesn't have the challenges that Sora Valencia spoke of that other men who are in leadership have, letting a woman take a crack at bat. Or listen, sometimes we may not hit it out at the park, but we know how to bunt the ball and get on base.
Right. Yeah. And he listens, and that's important. It's important. That's one of the things that happens when the ear is deaf. It doesn't matter what you think because you can't hear. But I know you got to get to a question, Marcus, but I do want to get this in for 1 second. I happen to be in the CME church, and I have a bishop who is very, very much pro women in ministry, has taken some chances to put some of us in places that we would not ordinarily be put. And so I didn't want it to seem like it was a difficult season in my life. I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I'm given. I'm the first woman pastor of the church that I'm pastoring in its 117-year existence. They went 110 years with men. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity, and that, that there's been support and we have not failed. And we, are doing as best we can, even in pandemic, to move forward. And so I'm grateful for that opportunity. And so I know there may be people listening who are part of our church, and I don't want anybody to think for 1 minute that I do not recognize that Senior Bishop has been a blessing to women in ministry, especially in Texas.
That's wonderful to hear that both of you have men in leadership who understand the value of having women in pivotal positions, appointing you, Lisa, and appointing you because you work in a connectional church, Valencia. Right. So the bishop has the will of his pleasure to move you here and there. So that is wonderful to hear. And I do want to go to Dennis Johnson's question from Facebook. Thank you, sir. Do you think that Vice President Harris elect will work to bridge the income disparities between African American women and Black men versus the Caucasian community?
I think they will work on pay equity issues, to answer Dennis's question, but I think she and Joe Biden together are going to try to get away from the us versus them and the we versus them, so that everyone has a higher wage and a more equitable wage for equal, for what you do, because there are white women who aren't getting paid as their white counterparts. So that's a problem that goes across the female gender, but also but unfortunately, our white sisters still make more money than we do, which is unfortunate. But I do think they're going to equal that pay scale. They're starting with already, even it doesn't maybe affect us directly, but if my sister and brother can make a living wage now at a minimum wage being at $15 versus being $9, that's going to help me and help my community that I live in. How do you feel, Sora Valencia?
I'm in total agreement. I was listening to what you said about the fact that this is not only an African American issue, and I always go theological. It's not only a liberation theological issue; it's a feminist and womanist issue across the board. And therefore, as women of color, it's a double whammy, because we become, there was a time, and I know you remember it, and Marcus, you may remember this time when a lot of women got hired because they were double minority.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't matter whether they were really qualified at that point. They needed a quota. And they got thrust into positions where they were not supported as they should have been, not treated as they should have been, all because they fit a particular quota. And so we are at a point now where there's a woman who lived that experience in the second seat in the land. And I'm sure that because she has no problem with her voice, she will voice that. She's already said it more than one time about the disparity between what women make and what men make. And not about being versus, but also and.
Yeah.
It's important to look at it in a very real way in order to be able to say, okay, here's an issue. How do we meet this issue head on and make sure that we are raising up a nation that is economically sound? Yes. And we got a long way to go. And so we got to tighten up, y'all. It's going to be a rough road trying to make up for everything that has had to be done during this season, where monies have had to just be given in order for people to survive. So before you jump on, Joe Biden 4 months from now and say, what do you mean we got to do this? What do you mean remember that pandemic hits across the board.
Yeah.
And when they are giving out $2,000 per person at 8 million people in America, what are you supposed to do with that? What are you supposed to do with that? 4 million, whatever it is. But however many people there are in America that are adults, if you multiply that by 2,000, where does that money come from? It's not sitting over there on that tree to be pulled off at whim. There are equities that have to be made. There's an economic balance that has to come, and it's going to cost us something down the road. Hopefully it'll cost the top echelon more than it costs us at the bottom. Hopefully that will happen, but it's got to happen. So don't jump on them so quick. Don't jump so quick about, well, we were better off with, don't say, hold your hope until you see where it's going. Okay. Yeah.
We are talking with Valencia Etner and Lisa Whitmore Davis, two phenomenal AKA women, about a historic event that's going to happen tomorrow. And so as we come toward the close of a wonderful Love and Stuff, I want to ask each of you, so tomorrow comes, and what are you going to wear? What are you going to do? I know Valencia said, I'm expecting the tears are going to well up. Will you shout like church mothers do? What do you expect tomorrow will be like for you? And how are you celebrating this inaugural, which is, uncommon for us because we're in a pandemic. So we couldn't get to Washington. I could probably imagine Lisa would be in Washington, probably, I'm going to be there. So I could imagine that. But because we can't be there, what's tomorrow like? And tell me a little bit of that source of pride that's welling up in you for tomorrow.
Go on, Lisa.
Thank you, Sora Valencia. And thank you, Brother Marcus, for inviting me on your show. And it's been, and thank you to all my friends who came out and asked questions. Tomorrow, I'm going to have on my pearls. I'm going to have my pearl earrings on, my pearl necklace, my my Chucks and Pearls t-shirt. I'm going to have my blazer on, my pink jeans, and my pearl Converse tennis shoes with AKA on them. I thought I'd been prepared. I'd had them here to show as a little a demonstration. And I am going to quietly sit and take it in. I am going to
Yes, ma'am.
sit and watch, and I mean, I'm not even going to get on the back and forth because I know you'll get sucked into the chat of all the different.
Yeah.
I want to sit and watch and experience it and watch her be sworn in for my mother, who was she was a church worker, but my mother played politically. People, when she was living back in the 90s, my mother passed in 97, but the Republicans in our, because it was a mainly Republican district I grew up in, they knew my mom and knew my dad. And I'm going to also watch it for my dad because he was so excited when she announced her candidacy. He was hurt, when she had to give it up, but he was so excited. And I want to sit and really just take it in and experience it. I do. Pearl down too.
Pearl
Okay.
down. Yeah, I'm Chucks and Pearls t-shirt, pearls, blazer. We're all doing that across the board tomorrow. But I'm kind of like you, Sora Lisa. I just want to take it in. I think that it is an amazing thing to be living at a time such as this, and living right now is a premium.
Yeah.
And to be able to live to see this,
Yes.
and to think of this woman of color, of Jamaican and Indian heritage, that lives in a country where she is going to be African American come what may. And anyone who says she's not Black enough, shame on you.
Shame.
Because her experiences have been our experiences.
Yes.
She resonates with us. She pledged at Alpha Chapter, and
Yes.
Her Howard University HBCU experience. Like tonight, while we've been on here, all of the bands have had their moment to play tonight. It's been an HBCU kind of night. It's recorded. It's on YouTube, so you can go back and watch it. And tomorrow, knowing that Howard University drumline is going to be walking her in, that the HBCUs are front and center, that the Divine Nine is front and center, and it is a world that people did not know about, and they are starting to know, and they are learning all about these well-read, well-groomed, high self-esteemed people who are part of these organizations, who are movers and shakers in their towns and in their communities, and they now know that they have something that's connected, and that you cannot mess with it, because when it's connected, it's formidable. And so I'm just excited to sit and watch and smile and cry and whatever emotion comes up, because for the first time in my remembrance, as excited as I was about Barack Obama, and I was. But for me, Kamala Harris is everything my mother, my grandmother, it's as Alice Walker said, it's all of the women and their woman stuff.
Yeah.
Come to roost, come to land on the nation's capital, and to take the oath of office and to say, we are here and we are never taking a back seat again.
That's right.
Never.
That's right. We are sorors and we're striving. We have to work. Sometimes we have to cry. We have to cry. We have to hold up the Alpha Kappa Alpha. And will we hold it up until we die? Oh, we are sorors. I couldn't resist. Sorry, Brother Marcus.
That's good.
I had no idea what was happening, but I'm glad.
For me, I was going to step, step,
Step,
step,
step, sorrows, step, step,
step,
sorrows on the way. Step, step,
step,
step,
soul, step,
step,
soul,
sorrows with soul, step, sorrows up.
AKA. Yeah.
Hey!
I love it.
Very
I
excited.
love the pride, as I put in that comment. Thank you both for your AKA pride and brilliance. And I'm hoping that that pride is a contagion to those of us that aren't in the Divine Nine. It's a contagion in our African American diaspora, so that we will all raise up and live in that pride and take our respective places in our community for the work that will happen after tomorrow.
And the work.
We will need to be in place, and we will need to know who we are. And we need the collective voices of mothers and grandmothers and fathers and grandfathers and auntie nims that will inform us that we have a right to never take a back seat again. So I love the pride that's on display. I'm just hoping that everyone who has a drop of African American blood, and I just want to say to anybody that doesn't, I'm sorry, you just don't have it in you, but we love you still. But anybody who has a drop of that blood ought to have pride running through them today, and not only today, but in the many days that are to come. Thank you, Lisa Whitmore Davis. Thank you, Valencia Etner, for joining us. And thank all of you, whether you're on YouTube events, Twitch TV, Facebook, or LinkedIn Live. We hope that you will be somewhere, as Lisa said, tomorrow, taking it in, or as Valencia said, welling up with pride. But whatever way you choose to celebrate, better days are ahead, in part because you are a part of the better days to come. Thank you so much for a great show.
Thank you, Marcus, for this and for the kind of love that you show for this community, and for that brilliance that God gives you to just kind of zero in on what is needed at any given time. I'm grateful to God for you. And I thank God for our connection through the years. I thank God for our ancestors that have connected us, whether we knew it or not.
Yes.
We're just excited.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so filled up because I didn't think it at all when I asked Lisa that there would be this kind of connection. Right? Because I just think that the Wolverine State Baptist Convention was the best convention in the world. Even though I'm working with Progressive now, you couldn't tell me that Wolverine State, whenever we went to the national, and of course, Valencia, when we went international to the World Baptist Youth Alliance, I was so proud to say that I was from Wolverine State. I wanted my badge to say Wolverine State Metropolitan District.
That's right.
And to have that experience and know that there are people, young people, that don't have that experience. I want them to have it because it brought so much pride and helped me to know, to the degree that I know who I am, it helped to inform that I have the opportunity to do those things. All of the, Men of Tomorrow, all of the orating contests, and stuff that groomed me to be is what has informed me of the work that I try to do today. So
and it's our job to pick up that baton, to pick up that ball, even if we've dropped it. Just because it's dropped doesn't mean it stays dropped. Pick it up.
That's right.
Pick it up.
That's right.
And I love that because we all have a ball or baton to pick up. And I'm just hoping, again, this AKA Pride, I've been seeing posts everywhere, and I know more AKAs than I thought I did when I was trying to reach out to people.
Since Monday.
I said that pride, though, is what we're missing in our African American experience. And I just think the more of it that we see, the more of it that we can be. And so that's why I want to be on display. And I'm certainly going to have you all back so we can have it on display for some younger girls.
That would be wonderful.
I know you probably have your own programs, but I really want, if we can help young people connect into that pride. Because I think that is what's missing when we talk about our collective issues. Is another show, Black Lives Matter and the Black people. When we talk about our collective issues, it's because, in part, we are devoid of that pride of our own experience. We've had some harrowing experiences. Yes, we have.
Yes.
And we continue to see some of them, right? January
Yes.
6th.
January
if
6th, right?
we were there January 6th, we'd be dead. If that was you and I, we'd be
Ah,
doing a mass funeral.
absolutely.
But it also had moments and glimmers of extraordinary excellence that we all should claim and say, that's who I am.
And that's
I think,
January 6th too.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's January 6th. Both
Yeah.
of them. Both
Yeah.
of them. That are
Yeah.
Raphael Warnock, led by
That's right.
the work of a Stacey Abrams and Nikema Williams could bring about that kind of change. So
Yeah.
and I don't know if I said this before, in churchdom, that day is Epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
And the day of Epiphany rose up a Raphael
right.
Warnock
Yeah.
while people acted a fool at
Yes.
the Capitol. And if that's not an epiphany for where we are in America, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Come on, preach.
That's it.
Yeah, that was your 2 points. I would send you an offering.
Yeah.
Just so that we can see in the African American experience that one is not who we should devolve to, because we're often thought as lower.
Yes.
The other is who we should always ascend to.
That's it.
And that's the real epiphany for us, because you know, we're cousins to Peter. So we're as mad as hell watching them storm the Capitol, right? Because you know, some of Auntie Nims and all of the folk, Pee Wee and all of our cousins know how to cut a fool. Yes, we do.
Hello.
But we know that's devolving. We were that's not who we were reared to be, right?
Right.
We were reared that you represent me when you leave this house, and those neighbors could get your butt just like they your parents until I get home, right? We were reared that there was always a meanness,
accountability,
a community-ness about us, right?
Yep.
And that part of the epiphany is what I'm hoping that we can elevate, that we belong. And where we belong is not to devolve into the worst of what we've seen.
No.
It's to ascend to the best of who we are called to be.
That's it.
And so I think we just got to highlight that more.
After y'all offering on that, that was good.
Yeah, I took it from yours. So yeah, pass, send it back. Yeah, cash out. No, I'm kidding. But because I know that would impact some of the things that we say are our ills. And I'm always rubbed a certain way when people say, well, Black lives don't matter to Black people. Well, there is an epiphany that we need to see, but so many people have blocked the vision.
Yeah.
And people don't see it as clearly. So now let's elevate it so that everybody sees the light of the epiphany, that Black excellence is the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's who we've been designed and created to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even in a system where they might have written in a second-class citizenship, God said that you are first-class citizens and I designed you to be excellent. And that's the message that we have to herald and trumpet. I'm done on my soapbox preaching because I'm a Facebook preacher. No, I'm not a Facebook preacher. I love Loving Stuff, and I love the both of you.
Love
you too.
If you want to follow them, go to their pages. The Encouragement. Lisa Whitmore Davis is doing great work with our seniors and has done great work. And
thank you.
God bless you to have continued great work and more resources to do great work. And everybody get about doing some great work. And in the meantime, let's have a great inauguration tomorrow.
Yeah.
A peaceful transfer.
And nobody has a Zoom call. Thank you, Jesus. We have nothing to do. I was so happy nobody did that. I was like, because I wasn't coming. So
yeah, they tried it. I said, don't try Jesus. Don't try me on inauguration. Try Jesus.
Try Jesus. And he will give you discernment to know I'm not coming.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yes.
All right. It was wonderful to meet you, Sora.
So nice to meet you too, Sora.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you both.
Right.
And thank you, Loving Stuff.
Thank you, Loving Stuff community. Love you.
Follow us on the Loving Stuff page and across all platforms. We'll see you soon. Watch the special that Valencia Etner and others starred in on our MLK celebration on Sunday night. Help us to get to 10,000 views. We're just about 10,000, but take us to 10,000 by clicking share and watching now. Go to the Loving Stuff page or Marcus Our Home or LinkedIn or YouTube events.
Drop it in this one too so that folks who watch it can see it.
Yes,
Drop the
I
link.
will.
Yeah.
Yes, I will. Yes. Thank
Thank
you and
you.
have a great night.